I'm Richard Martin, the host of M&A TV. I'm here this afternoon with Nicholas Assef, who is the founder and executive director of LCC Asia Pacific. Nicholas, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for glad to have you here. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and what your company does? And
sure. So we're an independent investment bank based in Sydney. We work at almost the crossroads of transactional work, traditional investment banking work and management consulting. And we have a particular focus around the Belt and Road Initiative of China, which we've been focusing on for 4 or 5 years now, not just the last 12 months.
Excellent. So you were just on a panel that discussed CFIUS and the legislation around that. Can you talk a little bit about what other concerns that we need to be thinking about in the US?
Yeah, look, I brought up 3 at the panel, 3 examples. In the common media now, you're hearing things of food security and protein, and you can pull a lot of strings around this, but the 3 I identified which I thought were of interest were firstly around minerals, secondly around infrastructure, and thirdly around what I will call regions. The first one around minerals, we saw the Trump administration in December enact or the president enact an executive order classifying 35 minerals as being strategically important to the US. Amongst those, uranium, lithium, but importantly things such as cobalt. And cobalt has been used for a long time as in radiology. It has but a specific application now inside battery tech. The Democratic Republic of the Congo controls about 60% of the world's market. The US is a big importer of this product, and it's absolutely critical to all battery tech. So some of the problems that are going to come out are the DRC is a reasonably challenging place to do business. The US is moving towards things such as regulation of a supply chain, saying I need to be confident where all these materials are coming from. In cobalt, at the moment, Amnesty International estimates about 40,000 children are working in copper and nickel mines where cobalt is a byproduct. There's a huge grey market in that type of product. So the impact for the US, if that quantum of cobalt was to come out of the market where already it's scarce, will be quite, it'll be a big impact. Hence why the President correctly is looking at how he can stimulate that type of economy, cut down red tape, speed up how mines come into production. So their stretch goal is that last year it would take, from a permitting perspective, up to 10 or 12 years to get a mine into production. Their goal is to try and get that down to 2 or 4 years, in particular around these metals where the US is a big importer. The second one I talked about is the flows of capital going on globally at the moment, in particular under the Belt and Road in China. There is debt capital being used to fuel infrastructure projects in third world countries. And now there is unfortunately a series of instances where China has triggered that debt and taken ownership of assets, and Sri Lanka is a very good case in point, a strategic port facility where they now own 85% of the asset, and they have a 99-year lease over it. This port is within 10 kilometres of the major sea lanes going to the Straits of Malacca. 200 ships a day pass within basically 10 kilometres. So the second point I made was we're very focused on what China's up to in various areas inside America and direct investment, but they are creating huge influence across the Middle East, and this is part of this Belt and Road. The third part is around emerging regions, and the Arctic, due to global warming, is, believe it or not, becoming a hotspot for activity. Russia and China established a major LNG plant called Yamal, and that fueled icebreaker technology. And you'd think, well, why is that sort of a strategic peril for the US? The US has 2 icebreakers. Russia at the moment has 40, and China has commissioned 15 specialist icebreaker tankers to cart LNG product. So out of Yamal, which is in the northern part of Russia, China is also now going to be accessing very large quantities of energy, and that Arctic Circle, which will yield richness in energy, rare metals, there's a lot up there. The US doesn't actually quite have a stake in it at the moment. So I think where I pulled those 3 observations together, Richard, were yes, there's a lot going on inside your borders, but regulation is not keeping up with the way that economies and economic flows are happening outside of your borders. And by the time you focus on those areas, you may be a long way behind the 8 ball.
So given that, it's a very complex landscape.
Yeah.
What do you suggest for U.S. companies to navigate?
I think that with these challenges also comes an abundance of opportunities. So for example, inside shipbuilding, US catching up on icebreaker technology. The US has produced, major ships for a long time. But if this Arctic Circle comes up, and part of the December discussion under the executive order was the opening up of Alaska and, believe it or not, even Yellowstone as areas that should be explored for strategic metals. The US currently has 2 icebreakers, right? And if you're going to be doing work in those types of difficult terrains, you're going to need more. So the opportunities go from exploration, investment into these large projects, try not to get shut out. So there are multiple projects coming out of Africa, Middle East, coming out of Asia. US money is not finding its way into a lot of those projects. Right? So there are big opportunities to get in on these types of things and have a share in that game, because they're not white elephants. They're producing assets that China and other nations have dependency upon.
Thank you, Nicholas. This has been Richard Martin from M&A TV. We've been here with Nicholas Assef, who is from LCC Asia Pacific.
Thank you very much.